Hello. Hello. What's up, guys? This is your girl Adiola. What's up? So a few weeks ago I talked about African students facing racial discrimination in India, and in my reaction video I mentioned why can't this African student look into studying in Canada. And since that time I've gotten a lot of emails, people asking me to tell them about Canada, and I'm like, whoa, disclaimer right there. This is a disclaimer before we go any further. Do not pack your bags and loads to move to Canada based on whatever I say in this video. I have never lived in Canada. I've only visited Canada 4 times. So whatever I say today is based on my visits to Canada and also talking to people that actually live in Canada. And keep in mind, every country has its own issues. I'm not saying that Canada is heaven. No, Canada is not heaven. Canada has its own issues. But you know, things are working better in Canada than so many other countries. First of all, the healthcare system is free in Canada. I mean, the joy of going to the hospital and not having to worry about the bill is huge. The healthcare system in Canada is like Medicare here in the US, except it's for everybody in Canada. Well, you have to be a resident or a citizen in Canada to qualify for the free healthcare. The free healthcare covers basically everything except prescription drugs, glasses, and dental care. And of course, most people have supplementary insurance to cover those things. So that's the first big thing that attracts people to Canada, the fact that you don't have to worry about hospital bills if you're there. And if you're there as a student and you're not a resident, yet you would have insurance through your school. You understand? Anyway, another thing that is really attractive when it comes to Canada, you can get about a year of maternity leave in Canada. Shut up. The only thing is you have to have worked at a company for at least 6 months before you start asking for maternity leave. You understand? So you can get up to 17 weeks, and after that 17 weeks you and your husband can share 35 weeks. So that means your husband can also take time off to look after the baby. I mean, that's awesome, right? So it's definitely a very family friendly place to live. Another big thing about living in Canada is the gun control. Basically anybody can get a hold of a gun in the US, but in Canada they have really strict gun control that makes it really hard for people to lay their hands on guns. So that's why Canada has less gun violence when compared to the US. In fact, you cannot compare the two, basically. Another thing to keep in mind is that Canada is huge. In terms of land mass, it's bigger than the US, and the population is only 35 million. I mean, look at that. US is like 300 million. Canada is like 35 million, and it is bigger than the US, so there is plenty of room for a lot of people, okay? Now, I'm not saying that people should not develop their country and move to Canada, because we should develop our country as well. But in the meantime, while we are developing our country, people need to go to school somewhere. The next thing is the fact that Canada is very immigrant friendly, and there's nobody looking at you funny just because of your race. Even at the airport, everywhere I go in Canada, it's very immigrant friendly. It's so diverse. I mean, I've only been to Ontario, but it's so diverse. You see people from different parts of the world in Toronto, in different parts of Ontario, and I really love that. The fact that you'll be exposed to people of different culture, it's huge. And one thing that I noticed in Canada is it's like there is no racial discrimination. I'm sure they will have their own issues, but you know, in some parts of the US, you are more conscious of your race. Not all parts of the US, but in some parts of the US, even if you're not being conscious of it, people around you will remind you that you look different, so you understand, which is okay. But in Canada, all the times that I've been to Canada, they're so friendly to people of different races. They're very immigrant friendly. And my last point about Canada is the fact that it's really good to international students. Like seriously, Canada is good to international students. The fact that you can work on and off campus, I'm like, shadow. So if you're a student and you're contemplating studying abroad, or you're thinking about Canada, I have a video about, you know, the advantages of studying in Canada. Just click on it and you can watch that video. Apart from being able to work on and off campus, there are all kinds of benefits to studying in Canada. So click on this video for more details. I'm sure there are so many other advantages to living in Canada, but I'm just going to touch on those few points. Now, having said all that, Canada is not for everyone. I have friends that have lived in Canada and they moved to the US. They said they can't live in Canada. And I have friends that have lived in the US and they moved to Canada and they were like, what was I thinking coming to the US in the first place? So I guess it depends on you. It depends on what you're looking for. At least you can visit and see how life is in Canada. And if you want me to do more videos about this, let me know in the comments below and I will. And don't forget to subscribe. Of course, it's your girl Adiola. You know, I'm a